Hey everybody, I'm going to give everybody a second to hop on here and I'm actually going to close my door. So, okay. Just give it a moment. If you're here, say hi. I think from now on until this is all over and things go back to normal, I think I will be going live on Wednesdays around 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for this. Now, it's going to be something different every week, as I'm sure you've kind of gathered here by now. But that way it gives people, because I know I have people that watch from other parts of the world. If you're in the UK, me going live at 5:30 isn't really ideal because that's like 10 o'clock at night over there. So I figured 2 o'clock is about 7 o'clock there. So maybe this will be a little bit better for some people. I had planned on doing a little flow, but I'm not going to do that today. I was going to do a nice flow sequence simply because the videos that I'm uploading this week for yoga are a little bit different. They're a little bit they're not our regular flow classes. So I thought that for those people that want that exercise, they might not be as happy with that as they would a flow class. So I was going to do that to kind of give everybody what they want. But then I realized that if you want a flow class, you can check out any of my other videos. And I was supposed to go live on one of the studios that I work for. I was supposed to go live on their thing and my connection was bad and it didn't work. So I'm going to do the same thing that I did for them. And I am going to do a little story time for you guys. This is something that I kind of thought of last week when I was talking with one of the people that I work with, and we were looking for something that was a little bit different for content, something that could be kind of fun. So I'm going to actually talk about the names of poses. I'm going to talk about Sanskrit words and what they mean. And for a lot of our Sanskrit words, there's some mythology and some stories that go into those names of those poses. So I thought it might be fun to take a pose each week and talk about it and talk about where the name of the pose came from. So today we're going to talk about Utkatasana, which is chair pose. And go ahead and find a comfy seat, snuggle up wherever you are, grab a cup of coffee, and settle in for story time. Today we're talking about Utkatasana, which is the Sanskrit name for chair pose. And the Sanskrit word for chair pose is derived of two different Sanskrit words. Every pose is made up of at least two words. If you notice when somebody uses Sanskrit, the Sanskrit name of a pose is always ending in asana. And I'm going to tell you what that means here right now. I don't have a pointer. I have a back scratcher that I got my husband for Christmas because he's one of those people that ever since he was a kid, he likes to have his back scratched. He likes to have his knee scratched, which is weird to me. The top of his foot, he likes to have it scratched. And so I got him this for Christmas because I was tired of always scratching his feet and his knees and his back. So I'm using this as a pointer. Today we're talking about Utkatasana, chair pose. If this is backwards, you know what? This actually bled on the other side because it's Sharpie, so I can just turn it around. Utkatasana is derived of two different Sanskrit words, utkata, which means fierce, proud, or superior, and asana, which is what every yoga pose ends in, meaning pose. So this translates to fierce pose, proud pose, superior pose, or what we call chair pose. Now, you might be wondering, why not just find the Sanskrit word for chair and use that for chair pose? Well, there's a reason that we're using fierce and superior and these kind of words that symbolize sort of like a royal thing. And that's because we're not just talking about any chair when we're sitting in our chair pose. Think of it like a throne. That gives us this kind of regal sense. And I have some stories that go along with this that I'm going to read. Let's see here. That's the wrong thing. Okay, so historically in India and like a lot of other countries, chairs were uncommon. Most people sat on the floor or on the ground. Royal people, kings, queens, sat on elevated chairs or thrones, which raised them above the common level and made them more easily visible to darshan, which is the act of seeing and being seen, which unites a king or deity with the people. The Ramayana, the tale of Lord Rama's exile adventures and ultimate return to his kingdom of Ayodhya. See, when I read these in my head, I read them clearly, but when I try to say them, sometimes I can't always say them accurately. So I apologize if any of these are incorrect or just not good. Anyway, the kingdom of Ayodhya is, in a sense, a story about a chair or a throne. The action begins when Rama's stepmother, Queen Kayeki, who once saved her husband's life on the battlefield and was thus granted 3 boons, which were demands, and one of which was that Rama, the intended successor, not be made king. And she wanted her son Bharata to be crowned king instead. And she wanted Rama to go into exile for 14 years. But Rama's brother Bharata refused to occupy the throne, which he knew he did not deserve. Instead, he placed a pair of Rama's sandals on the royal seat to emphasize the absence of the throne's owner. Indian philosophy identifies several specific sorts of absence. Antya Tabhavam refers to the absence of something that has always been in a particular location, should be there, but is now not there. This absence is palpable. For example, if you were to set down something like this Sharpie, if I were to take this Sharpie and set it down on my desk, and I know I set it there, and when I go back later, it's no longer there. The reason in which it is no longer there could be interpreted in different ways. Someone could have taken it. It could have rolled away. So that's the kind of thing that we're talking about here. A throne is more than an imposing piece of furniture. Symbolically, it conveys the power and authority of the one who sits on it. A ruler's decisions affect everyone in his kingdom, so the person who occupies the throne had better be wise, just, and prepared to renounce his personal agenda in favor of Dharma, the divine order that sustains life and the universe itself. A worthy ruler, a Dharma Raja, must protect and serve his people in accordance with Dharma. And this is a huge responsibility. Everyone in Ayodhya, except the queen, Kaikeyi, with her distorted thinking, knew that Rama was the best possible person to be king. When Bharata placed Rama's sandals on the throne instead of sitting on it himself, he dramatized his own position as someone who was not worthy to fill those shoes. The sandals sent a message that the real king, Rama, is absent, and he will do his best as his placeholder. Another throne story from the Ramayana involves the monkey warrior hero Hanuman, which you may have heard of. We also use that for a Sanskrit pose name. And Hanuman was in his quest to rescue the captive queen Sita from the evil Ravana's clutches. Hanuman flies to Lanka, where he is brought before Ravana. Ravana, the very incarnation of pride and ego, ascends his impressively high throne and gazes contemptuously down on Hanuman. Hanuman, ever resourceful, uses his magical powers to make his tail grow and grow and grow until it coils into a throne even higher than Ravana's. Hanuman's power and confidence were rooted in the knowledge that he was a servant and a messenger of Rama, the most exemplary Dharma Raja of all. His faith in Rama gave him confidence in himself, just as Bharata's faith in Rama allowed him to rule in his absence. Remember a time when you drew confidence from your place in a vulnerable lineage and did your best to behave in a way that has honored that lineage and teacher. So I got this from a website that I will eventually, once I go back in and edit this description below, they had a really nice description of a lot of different poses and their stories, which I thought was really great. So that is the story behind Utkatasana and why we call it fierce pose instead of the Sanskrit word for chair. There's a little bit of a story there, which is pretty fun to think about. And now we can apply that when we're in our chair pose. We can use that sort of energy and that thought to really think of how we should feel in this pose, maybe regal, powerful, fierce, and maybe not superior. Superior might get you into some trouble with the pride and the ego, but let's talk about proper form in our chair pose. I'm going to back up my camera a little bit here. And that should be good. So in our chair pose, we have an axial extension to the spine. We're lengthening through the spine. Think of creating that length as you bend into your knees. We're using the hip adductors here to keep the knees in line so that they stay right where they need to be instead of splaying in or caving out. Engage those outer thighs. The arms reach up overhead and the scapula rotate upward. Think of bringing the scapula back towards your spine and reaching as tall as you can. We're extending through the elbows. We're engaging the psoas and the abdominals in this region here, which help to keep the spine nice and tall. We want to think of breathing as this extension here can sort of minimize the natural way that our breath flows. You want to keep that breath moving as naturally as you can. The glutes are going to help with the hip and knee flexion that we're doing here so that we're not collapsing into this pose. Those glutes are keeping us nice and kind of tall. While we sink the hips, we lift the heart. We're creating, I know I always say that opposition, where we're shining one way and then we're also sinking towards the ground, sinking the hips as low as we can. You can also use that as kind of an analogy or a metaphor, thinking of, well, we're also sinking towards the ground and we might be getting low. We're also reaching tall and we're lifting the heart and we're shining upward as we sink lower. And that is your chair pose and your Sanskrit story time. I hope that was something kind of fun for you guys, a little different, really quick, something to just kind of take your mind off of whatever you're going through right now. And I look forward to seeing you guys in all of the videos to come. Please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel if you haven't already. It is very, very helpful to me and it helps me to continue to create more content for you guys. I hope you all live happy, live free, live well. Namaste.